Welcome to another deep dive with us. This time, we're going exploring the world of lost civilizations.
Ooh, lost civilizations.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. You sent us some excerpts from a book called Meditions of the Gods by Graham Hancock.
Oh, yeah, Hancock.
Yeah, so we're going to be taking a deep dive into his theories and the evidence he presents.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot to unpack. We're talking ancient myths, archaeological sites, and even
Geological events.
geological events, right, that might completely rewrite what we know about history.
Exactly. What I find so fascinating about Hancock is he doesn't just, throw out wild theories,
Yeah.
He actually connects the dots, uses evidence from all these different fields
Yeah,
to build this case that civilization might be a lot older than we think.
way older. And he jumps right in with this site, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey.
Oh, yeah, Göbekli Tepe.
Have you heard of this?
Yes, very interesting site.
It dates back to 9600 BC,
9600 BC.
which is, that's even older than the pyramids.
Wow, yeah, that's
And it's not just the age, it's how advanced the construction is.
right. I mean, massive T-shaped pillars,
Yeah.
some weighing up to 20 tons.
It's crazy.
Right, all these intricate carvings of animals. And, all this was created by a society that supposedly predates agriculture.
Right, so we think about hunter-gatherers, we think about...
Simple tools,
Yeah.
basic survival.
Right.
But this site challenges that whole notion.
It throws a wrench in the whole thing, and that's where Hancock starts talking about this potential cataclysmic event that he thinks might have happened.
The Younger Dryas.
The Younger Dryas, right. This period of crazy climate change
And, yeah,
around 12,800 years ago.
global cooling, yeah.
And he thinks, maybe a comet impact could have caused it.
Yeah, he presents some pretty interesting evidence, like nanodiamonds,
Okay.
melt glass, found in sediment layers from that time.
So this would be evidence of
A massive impact, yeah.
Okay,
It would have sent shockwaves around the globe.
okay, let's picture this. Comet slams into Earth, massive wildfires, tsunamis,
Global cooling.
global cooling. It's like a global reset button.
Yeah.
Right? And Hancock thinks, maybe this is what wiped out a super advanced civilization that predates all of this.
It's a pretty wild theory, but he backs it up with, not just the impact evidence,
Right.
but also what he found on the other side of the world.
Right. He starts talking about Gunung Padang in Indonesia.
Oh, Gunung Padang.
In Indonesia.
Yeah, this site is fascinating.
It's layers upon layers of construction going way underground.
Way down.
And some carbon dating suggests it could be as old as 24,000 years old.
If that's true,
That's insane.
that makes it one of the oldest structures on Earth.
Right. And it's not just the age. Hancock thinks that Gunung Padang might actually be a pyramid.
The pyramid, yeah.
So it really challenges our understanding of, where these monumental structures were built and when.
Yeah, it's like these two sites, Göbekli Tepe and Gunung Padang, they're like echoes of this lost civilization.
Right. So far apart, but maybe linked by this cataclysmic event.
It makes you wonder.
And it gets better, because Hancock doesn't stop there.
He keeps going.
He goes deep into ancient myths and legends.
All over the world, too.
From all over the world, and finds that a lot of them talk about, like a devastating flood.
A flood.
He even brings up these Native American tribes, the Croatan, the Quileute, and the Pima.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of them.
They have these really vivid stories about, floods that reshaped the world.
It's amazing how these stories pop up in such different cultures.
Right. And it's not just them. He finds similar flood myths.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Like he talks about the Zoroastrian patriarch Yima, who, according to legend, was warned by the god Ahura Mazda about this coming ice age.
Oh, wow.
And he was told to build a subterranean shelter.
Underground.
Yeah, called the Vara to, preserve life.
The Vara, wait, underground shelter? Doesn't that sound familiar?
It totally does. It's like those underground cities in Cappadocia in Turkey that Hancock goes to.
During Kuyu.
It's crazy.
It's amazing.
Multiple levels.
Ventilation shafts.
Living spaces. It even connects to other underground cities.
It's like a refuge built to survive some major catastrophe.
So, okay, could these flood myths, from all over the world, actually be talking about the Younger Dryas impact event?
It's possible, isn't it?
And then could these underground cities, like during Kuyu, be
The Vara?
the Vara that Yima built?
Yeah.
But, right?
It's pretty compelling if you think about it.
It is. It really is.
These myths and these structures, they could be physical remnants of a time when, humanity had to face a global threat.
Wow. And he goes even further, connecting all of this
To Atlantis.
to Atlantis. He's saying there could be a link between the Vara during Kuyu and the lost city of Atlantis.
That's a big claim.
It is, and he uses the Edfu building texts from Egypt as evidence,
Oh, wow.
which mention
A homeland of the primeval ones.
right.
Destroyed by a flood.
So it could be another reference to this ancient event.
So we have archaeological sites, myths, and now historical texts.
Yeah, all kind of pointing in the same direction.
It's like we're piecing together a puzzle, uncovering this lost chapter in human history.
And then he gets to the Great Sphinx of Giza.
Oh, the Sphinx. What about it?
He argues that the erosion patterns on it suggest that it could be way older than everyone thinks.
Way older.
He even uses the inventory stela.
The inventory stela.
Which is an inscription attributed to the pharaoh Khufu.
Okay.
That says that the Sphinx was already old and damaged back then.
So that pushes it back thousands of years.
Thousands of years. Potentially to the time of these, lost civilizations.
And then there's that whole thing about a potential, ancient archive hidden at Giza.
Right, like maybe it holds knowledge from this lost civilization, like the books of Thoth that are mentioned in Egyptian mythology.
Ooh, very interesting.
Right, so it's like we're following this trail of breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Leading us further and further down the rabbit hole.
Deeper and deeper.
And those breadcrumbs, they go up to the stars.
The stars? What do you mean?
Hancock suggests that ancient civilizations encoded their astronomical knowledge into the monuments they built.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Right? Like he brings up the Orion correlation theory.
Orion correlation theory, yeah.
Which says that the layout of the Giza pyramids mirrors the constellation Orion. So could this be evidence of astronomical knowledge that goes back to 10,500 BC?
That would be incredible.
Right. It would be insane. And then he goes back to Göbekli Tepe.
Back to Göbekli Tepe. Why?
And looks at Pillar 43.
Okay.
Which has all these carvings that could represent... Constellations, yeah. He brings up this researcher, Paul Burley.
Okay.
Who thinks that the carvings on Pillar 43 show a specific astronomical alignment.
Oh, like a date?
Yeah, that happened around 9600 BC.
Which is when Göbekli Tepe was built?
Exactly. So maybe the builders of Göbekli Tepe weren't just amazing architects.
But also astronomers.
Astronomers, right.
Yeah.
They were tracking the stars.
Fascinating.
And encoding that knowledge in their monuments. And there's this specific astronomical connection that Hancock keeps focusing on.
What's that?
It's the cosmic serpent.
Cosmic serpent.
Yeah, he thinks that ancient cultures saw comets as these, serpents.
Oh, okay.
And they incorporated that understanding into their myths and monuments.
Serpents and knowledge. It makes me think about the Watchers.
The Watchers?
Yeah, from the Book of Enoch, these celestial beings that came down to Earth.
Right.
And shared forbidden knowledge with humanity.
So could these Watchers be, survivors of a lost civilization?
Maybe, yeah. Sharing their knowledge with, early humans.
Right. Maybe that explains how, Göbekli Tepe was built.
That sudden jump in technology.
Right. And Hancock even talks about the Nephilim.
Oh, the Nephilim, the offspring of the Watchers.
Yes, yeah. And he thinks maybe they played a role in spreading all this advanced knowledge.
This is getting pretty out there.
I know, right? We've gone from ancient ruins to the stars.
Now to mythical beings.
Mythical beings. There's a lot to unpack here.
There really is. But it's so interesting how Hancock connects all these, seemingly random pieces of evidence.
Yeah.
And they all point to this lost chapter in human history, one that challenges everything we thought we knew about our past.
I mean, and it's not just one region or one culture. He takes us all over the world.
Yeah.
He talks about megalithic structures on every continent.
Like Baalbek.
Yeah, Baalbek.
Faktoame.
Easter Island, Indonesia. He's suggesting that there might be a connection between all these different cultures.
A global connection.
Yeah, so we've gone from, Göbekli Tepe all the way to the Andes. It's amazing.
So after all this, where does Hancock leave us with all this? What does it all mean?
Well, he doesn't claim to have all the answers,
Right.
But he suggests that maybe we're heading towards the same fate as these lost civilizations.
Oh, no.
Right? He talks about how history repeats itself. Cycles. And how our current trajectory, with environmental destruction and social division, could lead to our own downfall.
It's a pretty sobering thought.
It is, but he also thinks that we can break the cycle.
Break the cycle how?
He says that by understanding the past, by learning from these lost civilizations,
we can avoid making the same mistakes.
we can make a better future. He says that we need to be open-minded.
Open to alternative theories.
Right. And consider that maybe our understanding of history is incomplete.
That's a really good point.
It is, right? Especially after all of this, it makes you wonder what else we don't know about the origins of civilization.
It's truly mind-boggling. And the biggest question Hancock leaves us with is, what if?
What if? What?
What if the myths and legends, the stories we've always dismissed,
Yeah.
what if they hold more truth than we realize?
It's a thought that could completely change how we view history.
And our place in the world.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a lot to think about.
It is. It really is.
I'm excited to keep diving into this.
Me too.
Hancock's work is just so thought-provoking.
It really is. It makes you question everything.
It makes you wonder, what if those stories, the myths that we always thought were just made up,
Yeah.
what if they actually hold clues to a forgotten past.
Right, like what if these advanced civilizations really did exist before the Younger Dryas?
Yeah.
But then, like, where did they go?
That's the big question, isn't it?
And if the comet impact was as bad as Hancock says,
As devastating, yeah.
how come we haven't found more evidence?
Well, Hancock describes a pretty intense scenario. He says the impact would have caused those immediate effects like wildfires and tsunamis,
Right.
but then also long-term climate change.
So, like, global cooling,
Yeah, shifting weather pattern.
rising sea levels.
Exactly. As the ice sheets melt, it would have reshaped the entire planet.
So not only would this impact have, wiped out civilizations,
Yeah,
but it could have also submerged the land they were living on.
right.
So we might be looking for evidence in the wrong places.
What if it's all underwater now?
Underwater cities, lost technologies.
It's possible.
It's mind-blowing, but then, like, if we can't find any physical remains,
Yeah.
how do we even know what kind of civilization they were?
Well, Hancock thinks we can find clues in other places. He suggests that, while the physical structures might be gone, the knowledge and the ideas
Yeah,
might have survived, passed down through myths,
right.
and encoded in symbols.
Oh, like a hidden language.
Exactly, like a message waiting to be deciphered.
He talks about the books of Thoth.
From Egyptian mythology?
Yeah, which supposedly hold knowledge from a lost civilization. Do you think there's any truth to that?
I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but the idea that knowledge could be preserved through stories and symbols, that's definitely intriguing.
It's interesting.
Think about those Native American flood myths we were talking about.
Right.
Or the complex symbolism you find in ancient art and architecture.
It's like echoes of a forgotten past.
Maybe.
And
yeah.
then there are those astronomical alignments we talked about earlier.
Right.
Hancock says they could also be a form of knowledge,
A message from the past?
Yeah, like embedded in the very structure of these monuments.
The alignments, the math, they could all be hinting at a much deeper understanding of the cosmos.
Right. Than we even have now.
Possibly.
So even though the physical evidence is hard to find, Hancock thinks we can still get glimpses of these lost civilizations through their ideas, their beliefs,
Right.
their understanding of the world. But then, like, if their knowledge was so advanced, how did it get lost in the first place?
Well, Hancock has a few theories. One is that, whatever happened, that cataclysmic event that wiped them out,
Yeah.
it probably also destroyed a lot of their knowledge.
Oh, so like libraries.
Yeah, scrolls,
cities.
entire cities gone, just rubble and ash.
Wow. Hey, and even if some knowledge did survive,
It could have been scattered,
fragmented.
passed down through generations, losing its original meaning.
Right.
Like a game of telephone, the message gets distorted.
That makes sense. But there's another possibility that Hancock talks about.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of scary. He says, what if this knowledge was suppressed?
Suppressed, like on purpose.
Yeah, like intentionally erased.
Wow.
He suggests that the people who came after these lost civilizations, they might have actively tried to get rid of their memory.
Why would they do that?
I mean, imagine if their knowledge was so different.
So advanced.
Yeah, that it was seen as dangerous. It could have challenged the power of, the ruling elites.
Right.
Or undermined religious beliefs.
It could have been too radical.
Right. So it's not just about lost knowledge. It's about a forgotten history.
A history that was erased on purpose.
It makes you wonder how much of what we know about the past has been,
Manipulated.
by those in power.
Right, and how much has been lost or distorted over time.
It's a good reminder to be critical, to question what we've been told.
And to be open to different interpretations of the past.
Yeah.
But Hancock doesn't just stop at uncovering the past, right?
No. He also draws these parallels between those lost civilizations.
And our own.
And our own. He's kind of suggesting that we could be heading down the same path.
He does seem to think that our obsession with technology,
Yeah.
our disregard for the environment,
Social divisions.
it's all a bit of a warning sign.
Like, hey, look, this has happened before. Civilizations collapse. Are we going to learn from the past or repeat the same mistakes?
Right, but he doesn't think we're doomed.
He doesn't.
No, he thinks we can break the cycle.
Okay, how?
He says we need to learn from the past, understand what went wrong.
And use that knowledge to create a better future.
Exactly. He points to a few key things, like living in balance with nature.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
He says that a lot of ancient cultures, they had a more interconnected view of the world.
Right.
They understood their dependence on the environment.
They weren't trying to dominate it.
Right. They saw themselves as part of nature, not separate from it.
That's so different from how we see things now.
I know. We exploit nature for our own gain, don't even think about the consequences.
And Hancock says that's a huge problem, that disconnect.
It leads to climate change, resource depletion,
We need to find that balance again.
that understanding that we're all connected.
And he talks about social cohesion, too.
Yeah, he says that a lot of ancient civilizations collapsed because of internal conflicts,
Social inequality.
breakdown of community.
And those are things we're seeing now.
Yeah, rising inequality, political polarization. It's all very familiar.
So we need to find ways to bridge those divide.
To create a more unified society.
We're all in this together, right?
Right. And there's one more thing that Hancock emphasizes.
What's that?
Awe and wonder.
Awe and wonder.
Yeah, he thinks a lot of ancient cultures, they had this deep reverence for the cosmos.
Right.
They felt like they were part of something bigger than themselves.
We've kind of lost that.
Yeah. With our focus on science and technology, we've forgotten to look up at the stars and just be amazed.
We've lost that connection to something greater.
And that can lead to a sense of meaninglessness.
Despair.
Which makes us more susceptible to the things that threaten our civilization.
So it's not just about, like, saving the planet. It's about our inner world, too.
Yeah, finding meaning and purpose.
Nurturing our sense of wonder.
Exactly. Hancock thinks that if we can reconnect with that.
With that awe.
Yeah, and cultivate a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
It could help us create a better future.
A more sustainable and fulfilling future. He's saying the answers we're looking for, they might not be in technology or science.
But within ourselves.
Yeah, our relationship to the universe. It's a powerful message.
It is. It really resonates with me. But even after hearing all this, I'm still stuck on the lack of evidence.
The lack of evidence.
Yeah, like if these lost civilizations were so advanced.
So sophisticated.
Shouldn't we have found more than just a few, mysterious structures?
It's a valid point. Critics bring that up all the time.
Right.
But remember, we've talked about why the archaeological record might be incomplete.
Right, like the stuff underwater.
Submerged cities.
And ancient cultures using materials that wouldn't have lasted.
The wood thatch all gone.
And then there's the Younger Dryas impact itself.
Right, that level of destruction.
It could have wiped out everything.
Cities turned to dust.
And then there's the possibility that, evidence was destroyed on purpose.
Intentionally erased.
Yeah, by later cultures.
To protect their power.
Their beliefs.
Their version of history.
So the lack of evidence is a challenge, but it doesn't mean it's impossible.
We just need to be open to different possibilities.
Think outside the box.
Look beyond the traditional archaeological record.
Explore the oceans.
Re-examine ancient myths.
Right.
Consider alternative interpretations.
Okay, so we've talked about why we might not have all the evidence, but what about the evidence we do have?
Yeah, what about it?
What are some of the most compelling things that support Hancock's ideas?
Well, one of the most striking things is the existence of those megalithic structures.
The ones that seem impossible.
Right, the ones that seemed way too advanced for the cultures that supposedly built them.
We talk about Göbekli Tepe, Gunung Padang.
Yeah.
But there are others,
like Baalbek,
those huge stone blocks.
hundreds of tons each.
We still don't know how they moved them.
And then there's Sacsayhuaman.
In Peru.
With those perfectly fitted stones, those polygonal stones.
It's like they were molded, not carved.
It makes you wonder if they had some kind of technology
they've lost
that I haven't rediscovered yet.
And these structures, they're all over the world.
Built by different cultures.
But they share these similarities.
It's like there was some kind of shared knowledge.
A global connection.
And then there are the myths, the stories.
Those flood myths.
Yeah, found all over the world.
Every continent.
And it's not just flood myths.
Right, there are other shared stories too.
About wise teachers.
Bringing knowledge.
After a time of darkness.
Quetzalcoatls in Mesopotamia.
Coming out of the sea to teach humans.
And Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica.
The feathered serpent.
It's like these myths are pointing to a common source, a lost body of knowledge.
But forgotten wisdom.
So it's a combination of the archaeological stuff, like those megaliths.
Yeah.
And the myths and symbols that really make Hancock's case interesting.
Such the scientific evidence for a cataclysmic event.
The Younger Dryas impact.
The nanodiamonds, the melt glass, the mass extinction.
It all seems to fit together.
It's like a puzzle.
But not everyone agrees with Hancock, right?
Oh, of course not. He has his critics.
Like, what do they say?
Well, they say he cherry-texts evidence.
Oh, so he's choosing the stuff that fits his theory.
And ignoring the rest.
Right, and they say he relies too much on speculation.
Connecting dots that might not be connected.
Making it up.
Maybe exaggerating a bit, yeah.
And, let's be honest, some of his interpretations of those myths and symbols, they do seem a little out there.
I mean, he's pushing the boundaries.
But he is challenging conventional thinking.
And that's how science progresses.
By questioning what we think we know.
And proposing new ideas.
So it's not about believing everything Hancock says.
Right.
It's about using his ideas as a starting point.
For further exploration.
It's like a detective story.
We're following the clues.
Trying to solve a mystery.
That might never be fully solved.
Maybe someday we'll find more evidence.
It's new discoveries.
That will prove or disprove Hancock's theories.
But until then, we keep asking questions.
And searching.
Never stop being curious.
I think that's what makes this deep dive so exciting.
It's not just about facts.
It's about possibilities.
What if?
What if?
It's about expanding our understanding of the past.
And maybe even glimpsing what the future might hold.
And maybe, just maybe, rediscovering something we've lost.
What's that?
A sense of wonder.
Okay.
A connection to something bigger than ourselves.
I like that.
And a belief in the infinite potential of humanity.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of something Hancock said about, the knowledge these lost civilizations might have had.
Oh, yeah?
He talks about technologies and abilities that sound like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Flying machines.
Powerful weapons.
Time travel.
It's like he's saying that our ancestors knew things that we're just now rediscovering.
Or maybe things we haven't even dreamed of yet.
It's pretty amazing to think about. But even if those advanced technologies are just legends, Hancock's work brings up a really big question.
It's about consciousness.
Consciousness. He thinks those ancient cultures might have had a totally different understanding of consciousness than we do now.
Yeah, he talks about shamanic practices.
Rituals, altered states of consciousness. It's like they were exploring the mind in ways that we're only starting to understand now.
And Hancock sees a connection between those ancient practices and modern research into consciousness.
Like neuroscience,
quantum physics.
It's like what we used to think of as primitive superstition.
Might actually hold clues to how the mind works.
To the nature of reality itself.
It's a big idea. It makes you wonder if we have something to learn from these ancient cultures.
Even about science and technology.
Yeah, but it also raises a lot of questions, like if these ancient cultures had such a deep understanding of consciousness,
where did it come from?
That's the million-dollar question.
Did they develop it themselves?
Or inherit it from someone else?
That's where Hancock is really speculative.
He explores a few different possibilities.
Some are more controversial than others. Okay, let's hear them. What are some of his explanations for where this knowledge came from?
Well, one he considers, and this is definitely going to raise some eyebrows, is that maybe this knowledge came from
extraterrestrials.
Extraterrestrials. Yeah, ancient aliens.
Ancient aliens. Okay, so is Hancock saying that aliens visited Earth and, like, gave our ancestors this advanced technology?
He doesn't say it outright, but he doesn't dismiss it either.
Okay.
He points to those ancient myths about, sky gods coming down to Earth, bringing knowledge and civilization.
Right.
And he talks about those megalithic structures that seem impossible to build with ancient technology.
So he's suggesting maybe aliens helped them.
It's a possibility he's open to.
That's wild. But he does offer other explanations too, right? Ones that aren't so out there.
Right. He also suggests that maybe this knowledge came from a previous cycle of human civilization.
A previous cycle. So like a civilization that existed long ago, got really advanced, and then
got wiped out.
Maybe by the Younger Dryas impact.
Exactly. And then, fragments of their knowledge survived.
And were rediscovered later?
It's a cyclical view of history. Civilizations rise and fall.
But then if that's true, doesn't that mean we're doomed to repeat the cycle?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? And I think that's why Hancock is so interested in all of this.
Yeah.
It's not just about uncovering the past.
It's about learning from it.
Exactly. He thinks that if we understand what went wrong with those ancient civilizations,
we can avoid making the same mistakes.
Right. He's basically saying, hey, this has happened before. Let's not let it happen again.
So it's a warning, but also a challenge.
A challenge to do better.
To create a civilization that lasts.
And maybe that's where the whole consciousness thing comes in.
Right.
Maybe those ancient cultures had a better understanding of how to integrate science and spirituality.
The material and the immaterial.
Exactly. Maybe that's the key to breaking the cycle.
Creating a civilization that's not just advanced, but also wise.
Compassionate.
Connected.
Yeah, it's a vision that's both inspiring and challenging.
Definitely challenging.
It requires us to change how we think about the world.
To be more open to different ways of seeing things.
And to recognize the potential within ourselves.
I like that. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Göbekli Tepe, Gunung Padang, ancient myths, aliens, consciousness.
It's been quite a journey.
What are your final thoughts on all of this? Has Hancock convinced you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say convinced, but definitely intrigued. His work makes you think,
it does.
It challenges those assumptions about history.
Yeah.
And makes you realize that there's still so much we don't know.
Right. And maybe we've been wrong about some things.
Exactly. And even if some of his theories turn out to be, a little far-fetched,
yeah,
I think the process of exploring these ideas is valuable.
Totally agree. It makes you think outside the box.
Consider different perspectives.
And be more open to new discoveries.
I think that's what Hancock is really trying to do.
Inspire us to be curious.
To keep asking questions.
To keep searching for the truth.
Even if it's hidden in plain sight.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of lost civilizations.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed it and that it's sparked your own curiosity about the mysteries of the past.
Who knows? Maybe you'll make the next big discovery.
That'll be awesome. Until next time, keep exploring.